Hey, somebody needs to join wisdomharbor.com. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Books for Veterans. The Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. has asked for some Andy Andrews books, and I'm personally donating as many as I can, but to reach our goal of 10,000, I need your help. What we're able to do to make that easier for you is with every $12 donation you make, a hardback book will be sent to the VA for veterans, their families, and for the employees of the Veterans Administration. That $12 will cover the cost of the book, the shipping, and the handling. Or you can purchase one of these awesome Books for Veterans t-shirts, and your purchase will include a book sent in your name. So whether you can make this a personal gift or a corporate donation, just go to andyandrews.com/veterans. This can be added to a website purchase, done as an individual entry, or in conjunction with a Books for Veterans t-shirt. Thanks very much for your support. Observations and answers. That's what we do here on The Professional Noticer, and as you know, we love it when we can come to the table with observations and answers. And this week, we're going to take an interesting look at two competing methods corporations use to grow their companies: building culture or advertising. And we'll look at some amazing statistics to discover which method you think might be most effective. Here we go. In July of 2004, when Walmart first opens its doors in Gulf Shores, Alabama, several small businesses had already closed theirs. With a population just north of 5,000, Gulf Shores had become the poster child of a small town whose economic life was changed in one fell swoop. Many small business owners were on the verge of panic, declaring they couldn't compete with Walmart. Even before the giant opened, several had already decided to bow out entirely. Walmart, the retailing juggernaut, versus small-town local businesses. The outcome seemed predetermined. But there was a family-owned business named Paris Hardware that had been in the same location for years. It was a little more than a couple hundred yards from the Walmart construction site. Today, Walmart has been up and running for a long time, and the Paris family's hardware store is still there. Yes, they knew that Walmart would carry the same items they offered in their store, and yes, they knew Walmart could and would beat their prices on every product. But the Paris family had decided to compete with culture. Now, 20 years later, Paris Hardware hasn't merely survived, they've thrived. In fact, they have surrounded that Walmart with several of their own stores, 5 more to be exact. And 3 of those are less than 10 miles to the east, west, and north of the Walmart. Culture is a smaller business David's advantage against a corporate Goliath. While Walmart might have satisfied customers, Paris Hardware develops raving fans. And how much does a company need to advertise in order to develop an incredible culture? Last year, Walmart's advertising budget was $4.4 billion. Paris Hardware occasionally advertised in the local weekly paper. That brings up an interesting topic. On a dollar versus dollar basis, which produces better results, advertising or culture? Before deciding, let's examine some actual advertising dollars and how they affect consumer choices in reality. First, here's an overview on some random corporations and what they spend yearly on advertising. Home Depot spends $1.1 billion a year. Panera Bread, just under $100 million. The state of New York advertises itself at $905 million worth of ads every year. The city of Nashville, $85 million. Ford Motor Company, $2.5 billion. CVS Pharmacy, $1.5 billion. Now that you know some of the dollar amounts corporations spend on advertising, do you know where the money goes? Geico Insurance, for example, $1.5 billion in advertising last year. They've spent more than $1 billion a year each of the last 10 years. Do you know what they spend it on? Well, sure you do. You've seen the Geico gecko, cute little green guy with a British accent. How many Geico caveman commercials have you seen in the last month? And that's just television. There's print media, digital, radio, billboards, online. $1.5 billion last year. But the question to ask yourself is how many people actually bought Geico insurance because they just couldn't stop thinking about the caveman? Is there a husband and wife in America who actually decided which insurance to buy after arguing the merits of Geico's lizard versus Aflac's duck? Does your soft drink preference swing back and forth according to whose commercials you like the most? Are you drinking Dr. Pepper because of the Fanville commercials? And if you do drink Dr. Pepper, would you forget you liked it if you didn't see the same commercial 5 times during a single football game? Another popular way of spending ad money is naming rights. For example, Levi Strauss just agreed to pay $170 million to name the San Francisco 49ers stadium Levi's Stadium. What do they get for that money? Their name on the stadium. That's it. And how does that $170 million pay off? Does it create consumer loyalty? I love this stadium. A $250 game ticket and only $70 to park. Dang it, I'm only wearing Levi's from now on. American Airlines just announced it'll pay $90 million to sponsor a plaza in front of a new NFL stadium near Los Angeles. To be clear, they aren't sponsoring the stadium. The $90 million is to put their name on a plaza beside the stadium. Quick question. How did you decide which airline's tickets you'd purchase for your last flight? Did advertising have anything to do with your decision? And while we're at it, how much more does American Airlines have to charge us for a ticket just to cover the cost of their $90 million name on a plaza in California that 99% of their customers are not ever even likely to see? Now, granted, we're just using common sense here. But what are the results using hard data? As an advertising strategy, are naming rights worth the dollars being spent? Michael Leeds, a sports economist at Temple University, led statistical researchers in a study published as The Value of Naming Rights. In this extensive investigation, they examined 25 years of data from 53 different deals involving naming rights of stadiums and arenas. Evidence showed that companies buying naming rights during the last 25 years have seen their stock values decline more than twice that of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And 12 of the 53 corporations that paid to put their names on stadiums have declared bankruptcy. In conclusion, the researchers stated, "We find little evidence that the purchase of naming rights had a statistically significant impact on the value of the companies that bought them. Even less evidence that the impact was positive, and no evidence at all that there was a permanent impact." You might think this seems like a lot of wasted money. Of course, that's only because it is a lot of wasted money. So why do they do it? Is it because they don't know of a better use for their money? Here's where it gets really interesting. Crunching the numbers, we see that companies who focus on and invest in their culture don't spend nearly the money on the traditional advertising their competitors do. Think about why that might be. Given a choice, will you buy insurance from Aflac because Nick Saban and Deion Sanders do a commercial with the duck? Or are you more likely to go with the State Farm representative you see at Rotary Club? The one who buys Girl Scout cookies from your daughter. So, why does culture defeat advertising? Because an incredible culture turns every employee into a highly enthusiastic, vocal advocate for their company. And on an individual basis, word of mouth defeats traditional advertising every single time. Now, I know you might be saying, well, sure, word of mouth probably works for smaller local businesses, and it does. But what I'm telling you is big companies who make their culture a priority and know how to build it benefit from word of mouth even more than small businesses. Okay, we've discussed the annual advertising budgets of some well-known companies. We asked the question, do those huge amounts of money greatly affect our decisions about where and how we spend our money? And if that answer is no, why do they seem to advertise as much as they can afford? Is it because they don't know what else to do? Is there any company anywhere that has figured out what else to do? Actually, yes, but they're doing it quietly because the benefits of competing in a way the competition doesn't know a game is being played are just too great. Check this out. CNBC recently ranked the top 10 mortgage originators by volume in the United States. By searching each company online, adding their ad budgets together, and dividing by 10, we see that the average annual advertising budget for the top 10 last year was more than $500 million each. Now, obviously, the 10 advertise at different levels. That $500 million average includes Rocket Mortgage's annual advertising budget of $945 million and Bank of America at $1.93 billion in advertising yearly. The average also includes Navy Federal Credit Union at $196 million and U.S. Bank at $100 million. But there is a massive anomaly on that list. Fairway Independent Mortgage is ranked the fourth largest mortgage originator by volume in America. How this corporation has quietly reached this position is a feat the mortgage industry still does not understand. Back when Fairway finished their 19th year in business at $5.4 billion, they did it with 700 employees. In January the following year, Fairway entered into a 3-year curriculum with creating measurable results to coach every employee toward a specific culture. In a single year, the company doubled that $5.4 billion mark to $11.2 billion. The following year, they reached $17 billion, and the year after that, $22 billion. After 7 years of diligently prioritizing culture, Fairway hit $72.5 billion and employed more than 11,000 people. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. Operating from 700 branch offices in all 50 states, do you know how much money Fairway spends each year in national advertising? Zero. That's right, zero. Nada. Nothing. With a Better Business Bureau rating of A+, last year Fairway was also ranked by J.D. Power and Associates as the top mortgage originator for customer satisfaction in the world. And for the last 3 years, Fairway has been named in USA Today as the top place to work in America for companies with 2,500 employees or more. According to Steve Jacobson, Fairway's founder and CEO, we don't have to do national advertising. Our culture takes the place of that by allowing our folks to go deep into their communities and form relationships that produce unstoppable word of mouth. Here's another company with a long history of doing things right by operating in a way that is not on the competition's radar. Beck's Hybrids is a family-owned seed company founded 87 years ago by the current president's great-grandfather. Beck's, like Fairway, does not advertise nationally. Yet, due to its culture, its fiercely loyal customer base has made Beck's the third largest supplier of corn seed and the fourth largest supplier of soybean seed in the United States. Culture is so important to the Beck's family that the company created an executive position to build and monitor it. Bethany Grimmel is the company's director of culture. Beck's is also a client of Creating Measurable Results, the company that coaches all employees with an every other week curriculum. Beck's even makes the coaching available for their farmers, who are their word-of-mouth dealers. Culture is a priority at Beck's Hybrids, and culture is how you sell 2 million 50-pound bags of seed corn in a year without a single television commercial. Coaching enables people to push past the boundaries they've lived with for years. Coaching culture is how people become remarkable. When everyone in the company is remarkable, the company operates at a level the competition never comprehends. Therefore, as it turns out, much of traditional advertising is simply a tax companies pay for not being remarkable. Before we close, let's return for a moment to the big advertising budgets and look at an unusual statistic. Obviously, there are companies that invest in their people by building culture. How much? Most clients of creating measurable results are having their employees coached for less than $300 each per year. Then, of course, there are the companies that put their money into advertising. If some companies are investing in their people to the tune of $300 per year, has anyone ever explored how much other companies are spending on advertising, averaged by the number of a company's employees? We can use any company's publicly available numbers, but let's start with Capital One, the what's in your wallet people. The banking giant has 51,987 employees operating out of 750 branch locations. Capital One has an annual advertising budget of $4.1 billion. By dividing $4.1 billion by 51,987, we see that for every person they employ, Capital One spends $78,865 in advertising. Interestingly, this means that for many of its employees, Capital One spends more money on advertising than on an individual's salary. How about Comcast? In various publications and services, to include J.D. Power, 24/7 Wall Street, and The Consumerist, Comcast has been repeatedly labeled the worst or the most hated company in America. In 2 separate years, the American Customer Satisfaction Index survey found that Comcast had the worst customer satisfaction rating of any company or government agency in the country, including the Internal Revenue Service. Comcast employs 186,000 people, and last year alone spent $7.971 billion advertising their product and services. That's $42,854 in advertising for every single employee. With that worst customer satisfaction rating of any company or governmental agency in America, how much do you think Comcast cares about the culture of its employees? General Motors employs 92,000 people in the United States. Their ad budget last year was $3.24 billion. That works out to $35,217 in advertising for every single person employed. Nike, with 83,700 employees, spent an ad budget of $4.29 billion last year. That's $51,254 in advertising for every person who works there. Obviously, we could discuss these kind of statistics for hours, but we'll stop here. Whether big or small businesses, I think you and I have probably answered the original question, which is more effective, building culture or advertising? Remember, a focus on your organization's culture allows you to attract, retain, and grow higher quality employees. An incredible culture and the raving fan-like word of mouth it generates will reduce your advertising expenses and increase your profit margin. All this by having your team coached past good to great all the way to best. Prioritizing culture will create remarkable people. And remember, traditional advertising is just a penalty a company pays for not developing remarkable people. Check out more about creating measurable results in the show notes. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Aunt Christie's Monday lunches for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by mybandchildhood.com. Parents, grandparents, do you have a tough time explaining to kids under 12 just how much fun you had growing up? Do you suspect that somehow you've crossed time into another dimension, one that is devoid of risk and fun? Well, now's the time for you to begin shopping on mybandchildhood.com. From metal roller skates that tie onto your shoes to jarts, the huge, oversized darts you used to throw around your backyard, we have it all. Pogo sticks, clackers, spring shoes, and easy bake ovens, a 400-degree toy for 6-year-olds. Our warehouse is full. We also have the big-ticket items you can purchase for backyard play when your grandchildren come to visit. Steel jungle gyms and diving boards for your swimming pool. Seesaws made from wood. They're ready to ship and just perfect for summertime splinters in a child's hands and legs. MyBandChildhood.com is your one-stop shopping extravaganza down your dangerous memory lane. No helmets, no elbow or knee pads, and no crying to your mama. That's MyBandChildhood.com.